Champ, I'm so excited to be here with you.
Thank you for having me.
So Champ, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure you do know, Champ is a third generation of the Dusit family. And you, for the past decade, have been there at the company, and you got a chance to put a very innovative spin on the hospitality experience. I was fascinated that back in the 1940s, that Champ's grandmother actually founded the company, which I find fascinating, that a woman in the 40s actually founded such a beautiful brand. So kudos to her. But when you look at the future, right, because that's what you're doing now as the next generation in charge, how do you go about balancing that legacy with innovation?
Yeah, so for us, we've been around for 76 years, believe it or not, so we've been there almost, at the end of the Second World War, almost. And legacy for us, a lot of people say, talk about legacy as it's something that is a tool, and it is a tool, but I think it's important that we need to be conscious how we use it. For me, legacy can also be a double-edged sword, right, if you don't use it correctly. I read from somewhere that legacy is actually peer pressure from dead people. So it's actually how you really, which is quite an interesting perspective, right? It's actually how you view it. So for us, we need to, select and choose, what kind of wisdom, what kind of value that we really want to, bring onto the table. It can't just be this overhanging umbrella that really kind of really dictate what you do. So we basically look at, how legacy shaped us and how we really basically want to go forward. We look at, for example, how legacy shape identity, of our brands, the narrative of our brands. We look at, in terms of the commercializations, our go-to-market strategy, and then all the way to our operating mantra, how does that fit into our service DNA? And most importantly, how legacy shape, talent acquisition and then talent retention. That is also something that's really important as well. And so it's something that you need to be very, very conscious, and you need to choose. It's not just like I mentioned, that, we have 76 years of history. We have to always going on about legacy. We need to really see how we can innovate that. And the last, I would say, 10 years, we brought in a lot of the guys also from outside of the industry. We have now a team of, creative strategists, that look at, our brand. We wrote our branding architectures. Now we have about 9 brands, that basically covers from ultra luxury, that focuses on wellness, all the way to mid-scale brand, luxury villas and estates, for example. And we really want to push this, into the market. And so this is what we have been quite busy in doing.
Yeah, so speaking of some of the brands, when I was doing some research on this conversation, I came across this, I think it's a fairly new brand, if I'm pronouncing it right, the Asai brand.
Asai brand, yeah.
And I know we have a video that's going to run in the background, which I was mesmerized by the video because I was trying to figure it out, but I thought it was super cool and fashionable and stuff. But talk about the concept behind that brand, and it seems like a departure from the Dusit brand.
Yeah, so traditionally, we have always been in more on the upper upscales all the way to luxury, right? And we've always done things in terms of the more full service hotel. Asai was kind of a way that, I've been about 10 years ago, about 8 years ago, I was talking to our CEO, and, she's obviously saying that we have a lot of legacy brands, and, she mentioned how do we disrupt that? And so, one of the things that we spoke about is that, rather than trying to disrupt things from inside out, why not do it from outside in? And so she basically gave me this sandbox. Why don't you go out and then, start a brand, and then, without the legacy, and then see how we can basically run with it. So we basically came out, we obviously looked at the market. There was a lot of opportunities. There's not that many. There's a lot of Asian hotel brands operating at the luxury end, but not so much also at a more kind of limited service at the mid-scale end. So so we came up with Asai, because we really truly believe that, the new generation of brands needs to be able to connect, needs to be content rich, and it needs to have, an identifiable culture around it. So we created Asai as more of a neighborhood hotel, that is also full of experiences, right? I mean, one of our first hotels we opened up in Asai, Chinatown, our staff-to-room ratio is only 0.28, for example. But we're able to integrate a lot of the experiences, a lot of this, the whole neighborhood guides, neighborhood activities, the food tours. We have the community management in place, and we're able to integrate all this into the hotel. So we become like more of a neighborhood hotel. Yep.
Yeah, wait, I was so happy that she found like a partner at the end of the video that looked like her. Anyway, I won't divert. The experience economy, because you're talking a lot about that, right? Mm-hmm. That's something that you're really tapping into. What are some of the other critical features besides the obvious ones that you just mentioned that you're really tapping into to offer guests?
Yeah, I mean, for us, experience economy is something, is a term that has been thrown around quite a lot, right? Yeah. I mean, everybody's talking about experience economy, et cetera. But for us, you have to be quite specific. You have to understand your market segment. If you look at it, let's just say, for luxury, we have this stereotype that, for luxury travelers, they have to be, old and wealthy, for example. But in reality, it's not that anymore. Luxury travelers, in fact, if you look at the statistic and data, majority of luxury travelers are actually under 55 or 60 years old, and they also want a diverse range of things. It's not just, I don't want to get into this whole amenities war, right? Before we just think about, luxury travel is we have to have all these amenities and facilities, but now it's more intangible now. It's more about that whole experience. So I think it's really about, curating and having this programming with, inside your properties, from wellness to workshop to, family activations, from neighborhood activities that you can do, all of these things, and actually, design your facilities that can cater to that and empower, your own team members to be able to provide those type of services. I think those are really much the key.
Yeah. I have to say, I'm always on the road traveling, obviously, and I really appreciate when I do go into a hotel and the amenities are localized. When I come to this part of the world, just the smell of a lemongrass lotion, it's something that when I maybe take it home with me, that I get to remember and call back where the special place that I was in.
Exactly, yeah. So amenities is obviously one of the ways as well, but just to give you an example, we just opened up a Dusit Thani in Bangkok, and we have this this new wellness floor, right? And obviously Dusit Thani Bangkok, we are very much positioning it at the very top luxury end. When we realized that, we want to cater for both, business travelers as well as leisure. So we had this wellness floor, where we've purposely designed it to be, on the fifth floor. So you can basically, in front of Lumpini Park, you have this kind of this tree line. So we wanted to make it into this urban resort, for, leisure travelers. We have this beautiful dome, inside our wellness floor where people can go in. Again, wellness is not just also about, people who seek wellness. It's not just about spa or massages anymore. It's really, what we do here is about spirituality. It's about mindfulness. Yeah. So this is what I'm saying, how do you merge the facilities, with content and programming, and then obviously, find your segmentation.
Yeah. So speaking of content and programming, one of the things that I learned in our prep conversations is you started Wonderfruit. Has
anybody been to Wonderfruit Festival?
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's not that much, guys. Come on.
Not that much. Okay. There's an opportunity here.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Actually, the deputy governor, very, very kindly mentioned, Wonderfruit in his session. So
it's super cool. So this is kind of I liken it to the Burning Man kind of festival, but this is a festival. It's not part of the Dusit brand. This is your passion project. Yeah. You've been doing it for about 10 years. Tell us about it and how. That's such a culture driver. Why did you do it? Where is it going?
So,
Yeah, tell us.
yeah, so it started off from like, 3 partners, we had these crazy ideas, and we said, you know what, Thailand is also, again, going back to this experience economy, right? And, people know Wonderfruit as a festival, but actually is something for us, anyhow, as organizer, is something that is actually much more. For us, is a platform of culture that is very, very much driven by our own ethos. And, in terms of like the vehicle that we express our own culture, is through art, it's through music, it's through food, architecture and design, ritual, dance, for example, and we bring together, all of these, elements as a movement. And this is why, like our content is actually quite diverse, and it's also quite sophisticated in some way. The average people that come to Wonderfruit, they're more towards kind of mid-30s to 40s, for example. So it's not like the Tomorrowland or the Tomorrow World. So because we have all of this kind of like content. And every year we entertain nearly 30,000 people across 110 different nationalities. And if you look at hospitality, it's not so, like dissimilar. Hospitality is also about connection. It's also about creativity and content, and community. So it's really is about, how do you design all of this programming and actually, make sure that your brand is much more than just, this traditional transaction. How do you create that value is so much more important now.
Yeah, I think that's so cool that you can learn from both sides, from hospitality and then also, learning from the festival. I want to come sometime.
Please.
Okay.
So this year will be the 10th year anniversary, so it'll be very, very special.
Yeah, it sounds very cool. And you've also done a lot to diversify, going back to just the overall brand in terms of new offerings. You had an acquisition with Elite Havens, which is a villa company. You actually have packaged good foods. You have other partnerships I know you're working on. So when you think about the opportunity for partnerships, you think about diversification going forward. What's your strategy around that?
Yeah, like for us, look, obviously, like people know us as a hotel, company, right? And we are, that's basically our bread and butter. But, we have, other, verticals of our businesses as well. One of them is education. Thankfully, we're one of the leading hospitality education provider here, in Thailand. So we have hospitality schools, culinary schools, and that's also one way to diversify ourselves into different line of different businesses. Real estate is something that we are started to get involved quite heavily. So, branded residences, which is, such a hot topics right now in our, in our world. But also, in terms of the food that you have mentioned, we do, catering, we do packaged food. We actually provide food for, Thai Airways. We do nearly 200,000 meals for them a month now. Yes, but at the end of the day, it's all about creating that value chain. Diversification for us is really about learning curve. It's about creating that ecosystem and that value proposition, and also gaining new kind of like a market audience. But obviously, this is how we see ourselves. We see ourselves as a hospitality company through and through. With every vertical that we do, it has to all link back to hospitality, and that's really who we are from day one.
Fantastic. Well, Champ, it sounds like you are on the way to a great ride for the future, and congratulations on the new hotel. And I look forward to watching your career as you develop the brand.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.